Sup Geeks, welcome back! You like Sailor Moon, you like Disney, well you're on the right channel cause we're about to make another Sailor Disney princess. Always really thankful to the great artist Rashia Ranak who created this beautiful art, which is the source of my inspiration. Be sure to follow him on all his social media, I will also leave the links down below. So today is time for Princess Tiana. This is one of my favorite renditions of this collection, and I also think Tiana has one of the most beautiful dresses in all Disney history. So it's time to start! Like my other Sailor princesses, Sailor Tiana will be a hybrid doll using the Hasbro Tiana head and a DC superhero girl body. Once the surgery is done, it's time to reassemble our doll, but first I have to modify the hole on the head so it can fit the DC body, which neck is way thicker. For this I'm gonna carve using an X-Acto knife. This step requires being extremely careful because you can seriously hurt yourself really bad with the blade. I'm gonna keep carving and trying until it fits the neck. And it's done. You can see it can move the head perfectly, but as with most hybrid dolls there is a problem. The colors don't match. It looks like she used too much foundation on her face, but I'm gonna fix this later. As usual, I'm getting rid of the factory paint using 100% pure acetone. I always love that moment where her face becomes a clean canvas. And once done, it's time to fix the mismatching colors using acrylic paints and watercolor soft brushes. Matching colors is not an easy task unless you're a color mixer genius, which sadly is not my case. I always waste too much paint until I get to the right color. This is basically a try and error process. But once done, the doll looks like the two different parts actually belong together, as you can see on this picture. If you're not a perfectionist, that's fine, but I know I will be regretting the rest of my life not taking some time to match the colors. And it's time for my favorite part, the face up. For this I'm gonna use watercolor pencils, soft erasers and soft pastels. And of course, none of this would work without Mr. Super Clear, which I'm going to remind you all is highly toxic and a filter mask is always required to work with it. The first part of the face up is sketching the eyes. As for my previous Sailor Princess dolls, I'm gonna go for this style, which is a mix between Disney and anime. It's kinda tricky, but this doll has such a beautiful face mold that is flowing beautifully. This is definitely the best part to fix any mistake. Once everything is in place, including the eyebrows, it's time to start coloring. Using the watercolor pencils, I'm gonna start working on each part, which in the beginning is going to look dim and messy and desaturated, but that's what MSC is for. Every time you wanna seal and save your progress, go outside and spray the face. Wait for it to dry and come back and work on the same areas again and again. The colors will get more solid when we keep adding layers, I promise. By the third layer, you will definitely notice a huge change in all the colors. Everything will start looking way more complete. But there is a point where I always switch to acrylic paints to make some areas fully come to life. You might think that all my previous work was pointless if I'm going to cover it later with paint, but it's not that way at all. The acrylic paint in this case works so much better because I already have all the face up and colors previously drawn. The paint is only to highlight some areas, as you can see. I love The Princess and the Frog so much, especially all these lessons that tell us that we need to work for our dreams to come true. I also find really interesting that they chose to place this classic fairy tale in the 20th century, especially in the 1920s. Oh my god, how awesome is that? But one thing I don't like about the movie is Tiana being a frog for almost 70% of the movie. Come on Disney, no. I want more human Tiana. Even the beautiful lily pad dress scene is so short, like I want to see her working that dress, moving around and dancing. But don't mind me, this is just a silly Disney nerd rant. I still love this movie so much. And While I was venting my Disney movie issues, we are almost there. No pun intended. Okay, I'm lying, I had this plan. And I always leave the lips for the last. I don't know why, but this part stressed me out so freaking much. Always. But once the dressing lips are done, I can proceed to my favorite part on every repaint, the catch light. This part always gives me so much pleasure as I can see how the face comes to life with just some tiny white dots. I'm making them really big to feel this kinda anime vibe. And our face up is completely done. Oh my gosh, she looks so cute. I think this is my favorite Disney repaint I've done. And it's time to move on to the clothes. Since all these Sailor Scouts dresses are basically similar, I'm using the same pattern slightly modified for Tiana. I'm going to start using this apple green 3D fabric paint to create the illusion of leaves. That way the fabric won't look too plain. I actually ruined a couple of leaves, so I recommend you to practice a little bit before trying on the actual fabric. Once the paint is fully dry, I will cut all the pieces. Actually, it was really hard for me finding the perfect shades of green. It took me like 2 weeks checking out the different stores, and I ended up getting more fabrics than what I actually needed. For this project, I'm going to try and use the sewing machine as much as I can. I feel like I'm relying on hand sewing way too much, and I feel like hand sewing is way more precise for these doll skate clothes, but it's too time consuming, so I really want to improve my sewing machine skills. To make the pleated skirt, I hold everything with pins first and then I set it with an iron. Once done, it's time to place the leaves over the skirt. Once I'm happy with the placement, I will hold them with small stitches and then I will use the sewing machine. After this, I will repeat exactly the same process but on the bodies. Place the leaves, hold them, and then sew. I also added the back part of the bodies and then it's time to sew both parts together. This took me a lot of pins as I really want to make it using my sewing machine. And here it is. I was really nervous about it, but it really paid off. It looks amazing and so much stronger. I hope I can keep improving my sewing machine game. Finally, it's time to close the skirt and voila! The dress is now completed. I'm really proud that I was able to make everything without hand sewing. For the stockings, I will always use a 4-way stretch fabric. And believe me, you guys have no idea how hard was finding this pale green. First, I'm going to sew the hem to give them a nice finish. Once done, I'm going to fold the fabric in half. And then I'm going to sew all over the line. I already trimmed the fabric excess and believe it or not, the stocking is done. Those stockings used to be a living hell for me, but once I got the tricks, not anymore. Let's try it in our model. It fits her perfectly, they look amazing and super easy to make. I repeat the exact same process to make her opera gloves. And finally, I'm going to close the dress sewing it. I don't feel like I'm going to take it off, she will always be Sailor Tiana, so no velcro, thankfully. So let's move to the final steps, like painting some details here and there, like her hands to give the illusion of the actual gloves. I used super light air dry clay to make all the flowers and details that make her dress so awesome. You know I love this clay cause it's flexible after dried. I also made her bow, collar and her golden tiara using some gold ribbon. To place the sailor collar, I'm going to use some stitches. And I'm gonna do exactly the same for the bow. I'm going to close the choker using some Gorilla Glue. And the same glue for the front flower bow. And the same for the flower on her waist. I was feeling like she was missing something. Of course, her classic cute curls. I don't get why Hasbro dolls are lacking these details, so I used a little bit of acrylic yarn weft to make them, and then I glued them on place. Oh my gosh, she looks so cute. She's finally done now. Well guys, I'm really loving this series. Which princess do you think should be the next to join the squad? Let me know in the comments. Also don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for more geeky dolls. A lot of amazing collabs are coming up. You'll love them. Well, that's all for today and until the next time.